Hello and welcome to Foreign Correspondent. I'm Mark Corcoran. Tonight, chasing a slice of heaven.
Welcome to New Zealand.
It's one Pacific solution that works. And getting into the swing of things, our man in Beijing on the latest racket sweeping China.
Beats me again.
Australia is desperately short of labour. The National Farmers Federation estimates that an extra 100,000 workers are needed on our farms. So what to do? Well, the solution may lie across the Tasman in New Zealand, where a new Pacific Islands guest worker scheme is proving to be a huge success. The Pacific Dawn slides into Vanuatu's Port Vila harbour. On board are 2,000 mainly Australian passengers. Local traders frantically prepare for the onslaught. The visitors will spend $400,000 in just 8 hours in port. But there's one hard economic reality. Despite this weekly splash of cash by the cruise ships, Vanuatu cannot survive on tourism alone. A couple of years ago, an international survey declared Vanuatu to be the happiest place on earth. And while that may be so, when you move away from the cruise ships and all the tourist trinkets here, you find a very different country. By Western standards, Vanuatu and many other South Pacific Island states are nations in poverty. Here, only 1 in 5 people have access to electricity. If you want basic health care or any form of education, you have to pay for it. And like many other countries in this region, people living in the outer islands and villages are being drawn to the city in search of work to pay for those services. The only problem is there are no jobs to be had. "27-year-old Rene Nimisa is acutely aware that he lives in a world of haves and have-nots.
First time.
Like thousands of others, Rene can't find steady work. What's this place?
I'm in a place below me now.
Up in the hills, in the shanty settlements behind town, he takes us to his family compound.
And everybody here is from Tanna?
Yes, everyone here, one family. No.
How many people live here?
I think 20.
20?
Yeah. And they all rent house. No, all rent house. Yeah.
A decade ago, his parents sent him here from his home island of Tanna, investing the family's savings so he could finish high school, get a job and support his clan.
When the contract finishes, they usually...
His wife Gloria works 6 days a week serving tourists in a cafe.
And here it's too hard, it's too expensive to live here.
They can't even afford to keep the family together. One of their 2 daughters lives with grandparents back on Tanna. Rene wants more than this for his family, but there's never enough money.
This is my house.
Your home?
Yeah.
But now there's hope. For the first time in his life, the chance of a real job.
This is your contract.
Rene has been offered seasonal work picking fruit as part of a new guest worker scheme in New Zealand.
Yeah.
He doesn't understand the details, but hopes for the best.
You trust the contractor and the farmer that they'll look after you in New Zealand?
Yes. Pamiharap no good pamisori lem from Moscow from Moscow. Look at money from suppose sometimes grow become bem school fee blame or kakai blame and something or anything.
At the local club and casino, the guest workers anxiously await her briefing.
Okay, well, welcome everybody. Nice to see you all here. We'll have a roll call.
Kiwi expatriate Dick Eade is a contractor, hiring teams for New Zealand's bold experiment in labour mobility.
So I'm going to speak to you in English today because when you get down there, everybody will speak English. The tax on $750 would
Taxation, rent, fund transfers, even New Zealand's cold weather.
The employer is going to give you.
There's a bewildering amount of information to absorb. The men also learn that they're making history. Facing chronic labour shortages, last year New Zealand took 400 Pacific Islanders in a trial scheme called the Recognised Seasonal Employer Program, or RSE. It's been such a huge success that this year 5,000 workers from here, Kiribati, Tuvalu, Tonga, the Solomons and Samoa are all headed to the slice of heaven. They can stay for 7 months a year and will be paid the award rate of $12 an hour, the same as a New Zealand casual labourer. For these men, it's a fortune.
$12 an hour in New Zealand is 900 Vanuatu here. Now 900 Vanuatu is 1 day's pay here, minimum. So they're earning in 1 hour what they would earn in 1 day here.
The beauty of this scheme is that remittances go directly to the villages, bypassing the region's notoriously corrupt and incompetent governments. No chemicals used in any of this?
All organic.
Right. Lionel Kaluat is Vanuatu's Labour Commissioner. Without a guest worker scheme, he sees a bleak future. He's watched the civil unrest in neighbouring Papua New Guinea and the Solomon Islands, and worries that expectations of the younger generation will not be met. Already 10,000 high school students graduate every year, with high hopes but little chance of employment. So there's no jobs for them?
No job for them. So that's something that we need to address immediately.
800 Ni Vanuatu are now working in New Zealand, but he wants to send 5,000 abroad. Is this in one sense a substitute for foreign aid?
Definitely. It's going to become the second biggest income earner for foreign income earner for Vanuatu. If we grow this seasonal worker to an extent where we get up to 5,000 workers, you're looking at probably leading the table in the foreign income exchange, apart from the tourism.
Soon, workers may also be heading for the bright lights of Australia. For decades, the idea of Pacific guest workers has been taboo in Canberra due to fears of illegal overstayers and the creation of a permanent underclass. But now the new Australian government is closely examining the New Zealand model. While Renee and the other labourers ultimately dream of working in Australia, they're wary of the past. This is a culture with a rich oral tradition, and everyone knows the story of when the white man first came from Australia. Arriving not as tourists, but as kidnappers, the so-called blackbirders. From the 1860s, more than 60,000 islanders were taken to cut sugarcane in Queensland. The elders remind Renee that some went willingly, but others were forced to leave at gunpoint.
O sa even oli karam wild cane koplo light lo night ko light from fish sek na mo pot di kam swing o semia krabo one putum lo pot sam oliron way krabo mo tuan ising out ikolo pot finish
Be you think so you mitras tengol white man ya pa no sa mega mol kain fashion all same before
meeting sem by all katalo white man or lepers long well must pay with you lo you come back with one money lo you misal make one development play me lo home island play me.
The big day has arrived. It's time for Dick Eads' team to leave for New Zealand.
There's a lot of joking business going on. I get called a blackbirder, which I deny and say I'm not, I'm a whitebirder.
For Rene, the excitement is tinged with sadness. He'll be away for 7 months before returning to carve out his little slice of heaven for his family. Pacific Islanders and Asians have been working in small ad hoc programs in New Zealand for 30 years, many illegally. What's changed drastically is the scale and organisation of this scheme.
How are you? Good, welcome to New Zealand. We welcome you even though you wear an Aussie shirt. Welcome to New Zealand. Welcome to New Zealand. How are you?
Now, in New Zealand, there's a big emphasis on what's called pastoral care. And that's the job of Clive Exelby, manager of Ongateti Cool Stores, a company specialising in picking and packing kiwi fruit.
From the moment that they land in New Zealand, we have to make sure we don't have to necessarily pay for or provide for everything, but we have to make sure that every need is taken care of.
There's a quick introduction to New Zealand's culinary delights. Then a drive to the small township of Katikati on the North Island's Bay of Plenty. Home for the next 7 months will be this caravan park. The workers get their first hard lesson in the user pays economy.
This is a shower with a $2 slot for the water that you'll get. Nice warm water. Alternative, just over here, there's a cold stream. You can swim in the cold stream if you want to. Not for me, but you may like it.
And there will be other costs. The men will have to repay half of their airfare and fork out for power, food and lodgings.
There are 6 vans that you will occupy, and you know which 3 are going in this van, 3 in the next one. You only have one key, one chance.
The vans are small and will be extremely cold in the New Zealand winter. But there are no complaints from Rene.
No, David, here.
No, David.
Huh?
No.
What do you think?
Very good. Very good.
We are audited on accommodation.
Oh, yeah.
New Zealand immigration people will come to make sure that we've complied with providing suitable accommodation for these people. It also means that we have to provide transport to and from the workplace and ability to get to cultural activities, taken to church on Sundays, all those type of things.
Clive Exelby takes his pastoral duties seriously. It turns out he's a former pastor of this evangelical church. But his team also has a few surprises. Of the 16 men, 3 are also Christian pastors. They've discreetly signed on as labourers to check out the scheme before recommending it to their congregations back home.
I want to hear our brothers from Vanuatu. I want to hear the name of Jesus in your language. I want to hear the people of God.
While most of the team get in the spirit of things,
I want to hear the name of Jesus lifted up.
Rene's not so sure.
1, 2, 3, Jesus! 1, 2, 3, Jesus! 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 You are worthy to be praised. Worthy of our honor. Lord, you are worthy this morning. Jesus.
Monday morning and it's down to business. The gentle art of picking kiwi fruit. New Zealand horticulture depends on 40,000 seasonal workers each year.
Now you can pull the straps and everything to make it fit you.
Finding staff was a near impossible task, with extremely low unemployment, unreliable backpacker labour, and a steady exodus of New Zealanders to Australia. The Pacific RSE scheme, says Clive Exelby, was born out of necessity.
The alternatives aren't worth bearing or even thinking about, you know. If you can't pack the fruit, what are you going to do? You can't get the work done. I mean, the grower's losing, we as a company are going to lose, and New Zealand as a country would lose a tremendous amount of money.
Across the Tasman in Australia, labour shortages are costing fruit and vegetable producers $700 million a year in lost productivity.
So in here you can probably pick 2 fruit at once, like that.
But here the horticultural industry now has ambitious plans to nearly double production over the next 5 years.
So you can pick a bit faster like that.
All on the back of the RSE scheme.
There's 25,000 people in the Pacific alone who could come onto the workplace, both men and women, at any time. And so our 5,000 are just really scraping the surface, you know.
One of the strongest arguments against guest worker schemes around the world is the contentious issue of illegal overstayers. New Zealand's solution? Labourers are the employer's responsibility. The logic being that a happy, well-paid guest worker is more likely to play by the rules and go home at the end of the contract.
So after their 7-month period here, we have to guarantee that they hop on the plane and go home. Otherwise, we will have to pay New Zealand Immigration up to $3,000 per person for them to find them in New Zealand and to put them out of the country.
Still, there have been problems. On the streets of Auckland, we join Melino Maka of the Tongan Advisory Council. He says most of the 50,000 Tongans in New Zealand live around here in the southern suburbs of Auckland. There are now also several hundred Tongan RSE guest workers in the country. Tonight, he's looking for one who's quit his job and is now wanted by the authorities.
I said, just disregard anybody else. Think about you, your family, and what's best for you. Organize yourself to go back home before they deport you. Once they pick you up, you know you're gone.
We find Saya Oholele living in the garage of a suburban home. He claims he was hired under false pretences by another kiwi fruit company, brought in at the end of the picking season and only paid for the few days worked each week.
By the time they take all their expenses, sometimes there's less than 100. Sometimes they get 200. Plus their living condition was a bit smaller than this for 5 of them. And they pay $1,000 a fortnight.
$1,000 a fortnight?
For a room, but same or smaller than this for 5 of them living in it.
Saya Oholele refuses to leave. But if immigration find him, he risks being deported and never being allowed back into the country. Another team of disillusioned Tongan workers has already quit and gone home. It's a fine line between opportunity and exploitation. Even the Tongans admit that Vanuatu has done a much better job at hiring workers. Back in Vanuatu, recruiter Dick Eade is on his way to check up on one of his successors.
Hey, Dick! Johnny! Apera, welcome back.
Oh,
Good to see you.
Yeah,
Johnny Tallio is just back from 4 months of strawberry picking near Auckland.
I got back to
He's returned with $6,000.
So I'm planning to do some extension of my house.
The equivalent of 3 years' wages in Vanuatu. That's if you could ever find a job.
I built with the money from New Zealand when I came back.
Okay.
Yes. And that's the material I just got it again for the extension of my house.
On the other end?
On the other end, yes.
Good,
I got a cement, I got a timber here. Already got some iron roofs, yeah.
So this is the house that Strawberries built?
Yeah, that's the house. That's the Strawberries built, yeah. The Omaha Strawberries.
Omaha Strawberries, that's right.
Here it's difficult to see any losers with this scheme. The results for these villagers are tangible.
Would you like some coconut?
It's like the ripples in the pond. There's that one guy that I'm sending, but he's influencing or having an effect on a whole ring of people like the ripples in the pond.
Fresh from the farm.
Yeah.
Cheers. Maybe
one person's having an effect on perhaps 10 or 20 people back here, and it's good to see.
Over the decades, Australian and New Zealand officials have poured billions of aid dollars into the troubled Pacific region, often with questionable results. Perhaps this simple labour program may finally provide a true course to that elusive Pacific solution. Well, the Australian government has been studying the New Zealand experiment. We're told that Cabinet will make a decision in due course. Next to China. As you know, the Olympics are only months away. But just how keen on sport are the Chinese? Stephen McDonald says there's one sport that potentially has 1 billion players.
Badminton is to China what basketball is to America. When space is limited in ever more crowded cities, it's the participation sport of choice. At the Olympic Games, it'll be taken very seriously by the Chinese team. But you don't have to be that good to enjoy it. Most people playing in the street, like these Beijing locals, don't use a net. All they need is a racket and a shuttlecock and they're away. And with over 1 billion potential devotees, somebody somewhere is making a lot of rackets. Longmen is a traditional river town in China's southeastern Zhejiang province. It was known for rice, corn and sweet potato. Walking these cobbled streets, it doesn't feel like it should now be a hotbed of racketeering, but that's exactly what it is. Well, in a way.
您好，阿姨。哎，你做那个羽毛球拍。哎。然后呢，你的技术很好。
啊，很好。
做这个是不是很难？
不难。
不难吗？
哎，像我的老太不被打50载。 这个年纪轻给你打100载。
Every morning, the frame and string delivery cart winds its way around Longmen. It distributes to villagers the materials they need for a day of racket weaving. Then in all the nooks and crannies of this town, people sit out in the sun and while away the hours making badminton rackets. The townspeople are said to string a total of 50 million rackets each year. It's a long way from the grand history of this town and its people.
龙门镇啊，就是90%的人都姓孙，就是孙权。 孙权是三国时期东湖的皇帝，孙权后裔的主要集聚地就在龙门。
Sheng Yonggan is the town's deputy governor. He says nearby factories have given the townspeople a chance to make some money as their returns on farming have dropped. But they're not exactly raking it in.
龙门的村民从事其他的工业、商业的就业的机会相对来说不多，所以他就去穿球拍了。
With all of China's manufacturing might, its big drawcard is still cheap labour.
比如如果能做100的，赚了多少钱
？100嘛，那一钓鱼泡2块嘛，2块钱。
那您经常做1个星期是多少？
有7钓鱼泡。
It's only $22 a week, but it all adds up. That doesn't mean you have to like it. Sometimes what Western journalists find charming about the third world is actually a bit dreary for people who live it. We asked one man if we could interview him about making rackets, because we said what he's doing is interesting. His reply, well, you might think it's interesting, but I don't. No, you can't film me. But others say it's not so bad.
你做的你不是觉得无聊吗？
这个不无聊的，考验耐性。
啊，是吗？
考验耐性。
If you live in Longmen, it seems there's no getting out of it. Children learn to string rackets here before they can walk. Their parents and grandparents are still stringing into the night. And if they keep going the way they are, Longmen will be supplying rackets for hundreds of years to come. All right, I'm ready to take on a champion worthy of my abilities. Beats me again. How humiliating.
That's all for Foreign Correspondent this week. I hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget, you can leave a comment on our website, where you can also check out many of our best stories. Here's a look at next week's program. Until next time, good night.
Hello, I'm Eric Campbell in Ankara. This is a country with a dark secret, and you can lose your life for telling it. It's a shocking chapter from Turkey's past that's now threatening its future.
Yes, many of these things happened, it's true. But the difference between this and a planned extermination of a population is a very different thing.